Hello and welcome to Radio Somanaut. I'm your host, Whitney Dawn Pyles, and in each episode, I'll be interviewing inspiring and innovative individuals who are impacting the world through somatics, using the modality we call body-oriented coaching. Each one of my guests is a Somanaut. That means they're a graduate of the Somatic School, an online educator that trains coaches to be stewards of the body's wisdom. We'll be hearing their stories and getting particularly curious about how they're carrying this impactful work into their lives and communities. So in the spirit of the Somatic School, my invitation to you is to embrace ease, take a breath in, and allow their words to be a welcome exhale. Hello and welcome to Radio Somanaut. This is Whitney Dawn Pyles, and I am here today with Annique Sampson. She is a somatic coach and internal family systems practitioner. Welcome, Annique. Nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Happy you're here. Annique and I were actually on the same cohort. So we completed the Somatic School together. God knows when. I think it was April of 2022. It's always kind of hard to remember.
You had your baby, so
I know, and my baby is turning 3 in September, so I have this human reminder of how long it's been since we were in the Somatic School together. But it's really nice to see you. I'm excited to dig in with you, but I would love to begin as we begin with the Somatic School with just a round of right now I'm feeling, right now I'm sensing.
Right now, I'm feeling a genuine sense of comfort of being in your familiar, loving, warm presence. And I'm sensing, real warmth and kind of open-heartedness that comes with that.
Thank you for bringing that into this space. Yeah, right now I'm feeling, that thread of connection. I mean, I love, I love anything that centers us in time in a way that feels nostalgic and familiar and like, I don't know, I have this sense of time passing. We've just identified how much time has passed, which simultaneously feels unbelievable and very exciting because I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what you've been up to. Yeah. So I would love to, in a sense, start from the beginning. And I'd love to know what led you to the Somatic School. What were you doing? And what had you trusting that somatic coaching, body-oriented coaching was the next right step for you?
Yeah. So I first learned about the Somatic School through a friend and who also has been a mentor to me. Her name is Sarah. Lovely, lovely human being. And I met her. I think I just started following her on Instagram and I somehow learned that she went to the Somatic School. I just really loved her energy and her presence. And so she recommended it to me, the school, kind of glowingly so. And I really trusted her because of her, the embodiment that she just is. She just has a really beautiful presence and energy. And then when I was on the call with Nathan, really liked his energy and vibe and just felt like his authenticity and his genuine, like, realness. And then I did the intro call and he offered one of the contact statements. It was like, "You are loved," or something like that. You know,
You're welcome here.
You are welcome here. Yeah. And like my whole body it was just like a full body yes, kind of all the way through.
Yeah, you're welcome here. That statement is so simple and so powerful. So I love that you brought that in. And what were you already coaching at the time, or what were you doing professionally when you found the Somatic School?
Yeah. So I started coaching in 2015 when I was pregnant with my second son.
Mm.
And my first coach training was beautiful. Very foundational, loved it. Very transformational. And then I got into mindset coaching, which I really loved for a good chunk of time. And then I just started feeling like things were missing in my session. It wasn't quite enough. It was a really great tool, but it wasn't quite holistic or complete enough. And I'm an avid learner. I think I've done like 6 or 7 coach trainings at this point. I like love learning. So it just this hunger in me to want to have a different understanding and kind of solutions to help support my clients better. And I think around that time too, I was also going through some anxiety, which is not an unfamiliar state or experience for me, stemming from when I was a teenager. And it's ebbed and flowed my relationship with anxiety in my life. And I was having more an acute phase of an anxiety in my life, professionally speaking. And yeah, I was really wanting to understand the body better and how to work with the body and not treat my anxiety as just a thing to fix, but to work with. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How you've worked with that instead of, trying to fix it, or maybe the difference between those approaches? I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to go back in time a little bit.
Yes,
So when I was
please.
16, my brother passed away, and as one can imagine, it was my first. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say it's my first real kind of shocking shocker of a life thing, but it wasn't actually. But um, there was it rocked my world in a way that was pretty significant, and I felt pretty alone in it. Even though like very well intended friends and family who I felt very loved by, I just didn't quite have the support. So I was having these anxiety episodes to the point of even panic attacks. And what I started to notice was that I was really resisting it. And when I would resist the anxiety, it would make it a lot worse.
Hmm.
So somehow my 16, 17, 18-year-old brain, I somehow had this insight. I don't even know how, which was really profound when I think about it at the time for being at that age. And so I had this kind of idea, like, what if I befriended it? Like, what if I just even kind of let it be here on some level rather than willing it away? Because I would just notice it would soften. It wouldn't go away entirely, but it would soften and release some. So it actually helped it. Um, so that was my first kind of lesson in, wow, we can make space for feelings and sensations, and when we don't make them wrong or bad, we can cohabitate with them, right? We can occupy space. I can have space for them inside of me. And so it was quite natural when I then learned about internal family systems and working with the body and the nervous system, because it all just spoke explicitly to that there's an intelligence to feelings and sensations in the body, and when we can welcome them in, um, it helps them and it helps us be with them. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Thank you for sharing that, Annique, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Thank you.
And yeah, honored that you shared a little bit of what you learned from that experience. I can't imagine.
It was almost like I think there was like nowhere else to go but just be with it.
Yeah, and like hearing that language too of focusing of internal family systems and the way you're talking about that experience. So I'd love to go there.
Mhm.
Um, so where did your internal family systems training fall within, as you said, mindset coaching, the somatic school, integrating the body and the nervous system more? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the IFS piece and
Yeah.
I guess when that played into your journey.
Yeah. So I was first introduced to parts work, it's also called, in
Mm.
my first coach training. So back in 2015, there was kind of like a module on parts work. It wasn't named as internal family systems at that time because it was that coaching organization's kind of interpretation or adaptation of parts work.
Mm.
Um, and it was like my favorite module. So it planted seeds then, and then somehow, it was already kind of alive in me, and I was connected to it. But I think I just got away from it when I really got into the mindset coaching, and then again when I felt like I was bumping up against kind of feeling stuck in sessions with just the mindset, then I came back around to it. And then I
Mm.
did more formal trainings. Actually, the same mentor from that coach training, he's still my mentor today. His name is Guthrie, and I've done, all of his IFS trainings. Basically, he, helps coaches specifically learn and practice IFS. Um, yeah. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, I think so. Now I'm curious about what has that open? I mean, we've said like through the mindset coaching and really honoring these coach trainings you've been in before and what they equipped you with or how they uniquely equipped you for the work you were doing with clients. I'm curious since we're at IFS, I'm really curious what that door has opened for you and opened
Mhm.
for your clients. So from going from this sense of something is missing here, what did the IFS piece add, open?
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. I think it added a very validating, normalizing perspective of,
Mm.
um, yeah, truly there's nothing wrong with me. I am not broken and I do not need to be fixed. Because the way that IFS sees, looks at the human being is on a systems level. So it really looks at the whole of you and that we have this natural multiplicity. And we do hear voices in our heads, right? It doesn't mean that you have
Mm.
any psychological kind of disorder by any means, but that's really normal and then sometimes which have very polarized or oppositional perspectives, viewpoints, and that's normal too. And so I think first and foremost, just this very compassionate normalizing, like, oh yeah, like I'm okay. I'm actually really normal to have these kinds of experiences. Definitely nothing's wrong with me. And then to be able to hold that for my clients too, like with that systems level thinking and
Mm.
way of being with my clients and listening, like more globally, it's just so helpful and just so compassionate and loving, I feel. So I'd say that first and foremost. And then more specifically, the way to work with parts, because when we have we're dealing and navigating circumstances all day long in our lives, parenting, cleaning my backyard, um, that's what I'm looking at right now.
Are you looking out there right now?
Yeah, I have this fig tree that's like dropping all of these figs on the ground. It's sort of like smushed. Which is a nice problem to have, but like any little or kind of big thing, we're having thoughts and feelings about all day long, and to have a way, an approach to work with is the key word there, with your parts, and to really have a sense of being on your own team within yourself internally is just so it's just such an amazing, it's just such a gift, I feel like, wow, I really can be at home with all of these parts of myself and I know how to dialogue with them. I know how to help clients dialogue with them in a way that's really healthy and productive.
Mm.
Um, because most of the time, most people in the world are parts driven, meaning kind of like a part is in the driver's seat, so to speak. And then they're acting and speaking and, from that part unconsciously. So to be able to kind of step back, what we call unblending, and be with parts, and then kind of have access to what we call capital S self energy, which similar to when we learn focusing in Somatic School with self and presence, that kind of bigger, compassionate, curious, open-hearted, nature that is the truth of who we are, right? Like to bring that energy to my parts and help with my clients' parts. So, um, yeah, I just really love it. And then having the somatic piece into it has just made it go so much deeper that way.
Tell me more about that. I'm very curious about um yeah, the parts work, the IFS, and I'm actually curious about all of the threads that you bring with you into
Mhm.
your work. And yeah, I'm curious where the somatic piece, where what you learned at the somatic school, where that intersects with what you're doing, how it deepens what you're
Yeah.
doing.
hmm Yeah, I would say that. So if like somatic coaching met IFS, met polyvagal theory, I feel like that's kind of where my work sits.
Hmm.
And maybe some other things too. I think I love experience. I mean, there's, yeah, maybe hard to limit to just three, but those are three main pillars for sure. Um, so how does somatic work? Yeah, okay. So, um, well, when a part is present, it comes with sensation, emotions. Um, it has its own way of thinking. So if we look at like the soma, right, which includes our sensations, our emotions, our posture, our breath, the way we think, like the whole of us, parts embody that, right? And so as someone's sharing about a part, I might notice or they might notice a sensation. Oh, there's a heaviness in my chest. Or I feel this gut, this like gut wrenching sensation in my belly. Or I feel an aliveness. Oh, there's a warmth or an openness here as I talk about that. So just helping people, there's a real value to making those connections, inviting people to notice. What are you noticing now? What do you sense inside as you hear that part speak or that you're experiencing that part. Or I might say, oh, I noticed, as we do in somatic coaching, oh, I noticed your energy just got lighter there, or there was a smile on your face. Tell me about that, right? What were you just feeling and experiencing there? Um, so yeah, so I would say that I've had the direct experience of doing IFS parts work with some practitioners where the body wasn't included and it felt pretty heady because we're still honoring the parts and giving space for parts to speak and share, which is really valuable. That doesn't go away. But when we're just tuning into the narrative of the part, I think we're missing this whole other kind of intelligence and information that is really useful, that gets left out. Yeah.
My shoulders just immediately shot back. I mean, my hips are smiling. I'm at my standing desk, so I'm really moving with that.
Mm,
Okay. So I now this is me trying to name what I'm experiencing as I'm listening to you. So I was already thinking about language. I was already thinking about language with this. And then you use the word narrative.
mhm,
And so I find that really fascinating. I mean, even just today, I was explaining to someone, as in my opinion and from my point of view, the differences between, quote unquote, traditional life coaching or a more like solely talk based life coaching approach and somatic coaching. So just today, I was having this conversation and I just noticed myself talking about inviting depth, um, and accessing what's beneath the narrative, or as we tell our story or as we use certain words, what are we experiencing as a result when we're calling in a
mm,
certain intention or goal, or when we're
mhm,
calling something in for ourselves, how is our body responding to that intention? And maybe we explore that and see what's there and see what we're noticing as a result. And so this is really alive for me. And so as you're using the word narrative, and I'm imagining these different parts, and each of these parts might have a narrative. And so as I'm understanding you, one path that someone might take as a practitioner is to continue to explore that narrative, to have a
Mhm.
dialogue with those parts. But what you're
Mhm.
doing is you're accessing that person to access what's underneath the narrative of that part, seeing um what's underneath that, what the body is experiencing as a result of connecting with that part or connecting that with that narrative. I'm going to pause and just ask, am I summarizing that? Am I understanding that um as you're intending?
Yeah, I think it's all of that. It might give us more opportunity to sense into the part. Like it might be something like a sensation might arise that's directly connected to that part, but it also could be something else kind of happening in response to that part, right? Like let's say someone's talking about a goal or a vision or a dream that they have, right? And then they notice, oh, I notice I'm like really kind of tensing. My hands are really clenching up as I'm talking about this. And that'll be so interesting, right? To notice like, okay, yeah, so could we bring our curiosity there and just, when you rest your attention on your hands, like what do you sense there? Or if your hands could talk and had a voice here, like what might they say about what you're sharing about this vision, right? And so, yeah, because if we think about it as an ecosystem, parts don't exist in isolation. And so, when we talk about one thing, it might activate or open up something else in the body. And then again, seeing that as a resource or an intelligence. And what if we followed that? Just like to your point, what if we followed that and got curious there? What might we learn? What might we learn or discover?
Mm. Oh, I'm really excited. So as you're saying this, so a lot of my a lot of movement and dance are a huge part of my life and my work. And so I find myself prompting um or taking people through maybe a moving body scan, or just inviting them to notice how their
Mhm,
head or their neck wants to move. And then
mhm,
the next invitation there is, as you move your head and your neck in a way that feels delicious or pleasant or nourishing to your body,
mhm.
what else is moving as a result? And so
Yeah.
really calling attention to, and I love the word ecosystem there that you
Mhm,
just used. And so um I'm imagining inviting people into curiosity about when this part moves, or when this part speaks, or when this part wants something.
mhm.
How does the rest of that ecosystem respond, including those other parts, including that capital S self?
Yeah. Mhm.
And that feels very fertile.
And it organically happens. You don't even have to try, right? It's just, um, it's like, kind of invite something to share or come forth, right? As a part or in the body. And then, yeah, and then it ripples out and kind of in some kind of way. And then you just get to notice. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, just in that process, in that like viewing, understanding the human being
Hmm.
that you're sat across from as an ecosystem. And we've kind of lightly touched on this, but I'm wondering if there's any from our training as body oriented coaches from the Somatic School, are there any skills that you learned, were trained in, that feel really supportive of that process? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you remembered the wording of the context statement. Am I remembering that as the correct phrase, the context? Okay. Excuse me. Because on a felt sense level throughout the training, I felt very welcome. and and I don't take that lightly because as I shared, I've taken other coach trainings, and having a felt sense of safety, belonging, and welcome in a space is not universal, right? I mean, I think we've all had experiences where we didn't, whether we're conscious of it or not, where we really didn't feel welcome. But how much of a difference it makes when we do feel that way, again, whether it's conscious, we're conscious of it or not. the nervous system knows. So, um, so again, I think quite globally, just the energy of the community, the sense of community, and like that all parts of me were welcome in every session with all my peers, with the course trainers. That, and then when I didn't feel that consciously in other coaching spaces, whether it was some one-on-one sessions I've had that experience with, in other coach trainings to lesser degrees, and sometimes not at all, where I felt really unsafe. Um, it really it spoke to me in such ways that I really like a deep intention for me is for my clients to I can't obviously I can't control how safe someone feels, but if I can do what I know to do to help encourage that or to cr- optimize the potentiality for that, like I'm really conscientious of that in my coaching spaces and how I work with clients. So I don't think the in the course training anywhere it was like we when we do talk about safety and connection, and that's I think throughout, and how our presence impacts our clients, right, as a fundamental coaching tool or instrument, right, like how we are being is maybe more than anything more important than any tool you bring in, which I wholeheartedly agree with. So I think yeah, like how I'm being and my the really much more from the somatic school, much more conscientious of who and how I'm being in a session and the impact that has on my clients. I don't know why this is coming to me as a specific example, but even just, the kinds of respectful things that was role modeled and taught. An example of that is, when we share something that we're experiencing in the session, or an insight we might be having that we wonder might be useful for the client, or noticing a body sensation, to ask, and how does that land for you? Right? I mean, it's so simple. It's so simple, but it's so profound in a way because, okay, I'm sharing an idea or something that I'm feeling in my body, but I'm trusting you, client, as the authority of yours and that you have your own intelligence. So, yeah, I'm putting it in, like offering it as an offering. So, what happens in you when you hear that? Right. And like, I think there's so many conversations that we could have where we don't hold that kind of respect, or listening, and that sense of co-creation, right? So anyway.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that level 4 listening, just being in, I mean, the impact of our presence. I remember very specifically coming in with less coach, with a little bit of coach training and a little bit of coaching under my belt, but I learning, hearing, witnessing, experiencing really just the power of presence and of the way of intentionally creating a container and that unconditional positive regard for client, and actually experiencing in my body what it was like to be received that way. I
Mm,
think melted away so much anxiety for me around a coaching container, just really knowing how, like, the power of co-regulation,
yeah.
and just the really like quiet, and yeah, you said, it's so simple and it's so profound, just
Mm,
coming into a session with unconditional positive regard, being a warm,
yeah.
empathetic, holding presence. I mean, that in itself, and the power of that in itself, I remember to me being such a comfort that
Yeah.
allowed me to even soften more and more, both into that container as well as the containers I was holding
Mm,
as a coach. And so it was just, I mean, I just imagine this really reciprocal energy of um, that being a moment of softening for me and a moment of opening for me, and just believing in the power of presence and how we receive one another. Like,
mm,
witnessing, understanding, experiencing that and bringing that into my sessions, I think
Mhm.
just made it that much more possible for me to be a person that someone could open, feel safe, feel supported, like feel the warmth from me. And so it was this really beautiful, yeah, like reciprocal deepening that I'm, and that's kind of what I'm hearing in your response as well,
Mhm.
is I think both hearing that that's such an important piece, as well as experiencing the importance of that piece. I mean, I think allowed me to access new depths as a coach with the people that I was working with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
yeah, that foundation.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about language a little bit.
Mhm.
Because it feels like, I mean, somatics itself, I mean, and we're hearing somatics more and more and more and more, buzzword.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of people curious about what that means. I know I'm certainly getting more questions about what that means from places that I never expected to get them.
Mm.
Um, but it does feel like working somatically certainly has its own language. I mean, a heavy use of the word notice, I'll say, that
Yeah.
might not exist in other contexts.
You notice it now. What do you say?
um, so I think somatics kind of has its own language, and IFS certainly has its own
Lingo. Yeah.
language as you're learning it.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm really curious about that. So how is it for you kind of addressing that language piece, if you're coming into session or coming into relationship with clients that are brand new to all of this? I'm really curious
Mhm.
about how you navigate that, or if there's an inroad for you as you begin working with people that might not be as familiar with the either IFS or language of somatics.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people ask ask specifically, like, "What is IFS?" Or, "I know a little bit of IFS. Can you say more?" Or like, "What is somatic coaching?" I had that question recently in a consult call. Like, the person really had, like, just no direct experience with it, really hadn't, so, that was really interesting to have someone that was, like, didn't have any, and I think I fumbled a little bit, honestly, because sometimes
Let's
when you
redo.
go inside of a world, then to remember just accessible, mm, kind of simpler language to describe something that really is kind of simple in a way. I mean, really, like, we can be quite, I think, somatic coaching in its essence is, of course, there's complexity to everything, but it's also really simple. It's like letting the body have a voice. I mean, really, like, um, and all the nuances of that. Of course, it gets, there's complexity, but so okay. So to your question, unless someone really asks me directly, I don't really talk about it a whole lot. Um, I don't. Mm, I just kind of try it out. um, I mean, it's on my website, so it's not like they know that I do these kind of approaches. That it's included in my work, so it's not. It wouldn't be out of left field. But I'm trying to think of an example. So people very naturally talk in parts language. They'll say, "A part of me, I'm really struggling making this decision because a part of me feels obligated to say yes, and another part of me just is so fucking tired and wants, excuse my language, just wants to say
That's
no."
okay.
And it's just like exhausted and has no capacity to do this thing, right? So without even knowing it, people will talk naturally with parts language. So there's an easy road in there if parts are
Mm.
already included in their language. And I don't even need to say, I'll say, okay, so let's, could we get to know those parts? Or would you be interested in getting to know those parts and hearing the different perspectives here? Um, when it comes to somatics, I think there's a real sensing into the capacity and the maybe openness of your client. And I feel like I have a wide range of people that love to kind of go into the body, and they do so very easily, naturally, comfortably. And other people, we go a lot slower, and I might not really invite them to notice what's happening in their body. I might not even like use that word if I just sense that just need to slow it way down. Um, because for some people, an invitation to go into the body might feel scary or not as comfortable, in a way that could be activating. So, um, yeah, so we just, slow is fast, I think, in that work. Yeah. I don't know if I really answered your question. I think it's case dependent is maybe what I'm taking away from my own answer here. It's dependent on the person, how much I talk about it explicitly or not, and then how much I actually do the somatic coaching work with them explicitly or even at all, also dependent on the person.
Yeah. I think you definitely answered the question, and I really love what you said about, in my own words, like noticing how and where that language already exists within the person.
Mhm,
So, well, part of me, right, I want to maybe say yes to this
mhm,
decision, but part of me is, and that being the moment that you can deepen into the IFS work.
mhm,
I appreciate that, and it feels like, you know, I in my own practice feel like that's how it emerges with the somatic piece too.
mhm,
I think often clients give us a really clear opportunity, um, to pause and notice what's underneath that, even if it's just a literal pause as they're speaking and
mhm.
us asking them what they're noticing in that moment or what's there for them. And so,
Yeah.
and I think just in the way that you answered that question,
Mhm,
you also point back to something else you just said in there, which I really appreciated, which is that somatic coaching is really quite simple
mhm,
and yet at times ineffable, or it can feel, I feel this I mean, I literally just did this today. I feel it can be challenging to succinctly explain
yeah,
as well. So it's both simple and, you just kind of have to experience it,
yeah,
so yeah, I mean, maybe this is an opportunity to, workshop that a little bit. So, how might we simply describe somatic coaching, or even why somatic coaching is important? What comes
mhm,
up for you around that?
mhm, hmm. Okay, so I'll give it a go. Okay. So most of us, most of the time, are living from here up, right? And we're very much in our heads. And that's okay. Of course, thoughts are really important. We're thinking beings and species, and that there's like a huge value in that. And yet there's a different kind of intelligence that lives here down, right? Well, that's inclusive. That's from here down. It's the whole thing, right? And so when we include that in our coaching, we have access to more information, more insight, more understanding, more resources, more solutions. And so we could say that coaching becomes more successful, more
Mm.
impactful when we include the whole of the person, right? And we don't leave out, the other parts of the body. And so, here I probably would say too, that thoughts are important. We include the story, we include thoughts in coaching, of course. It's not like we don't include that, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. We also might notice sensation or emotions, how the body's moving or not moving, right? Like, so yeah, so we're just opening to the larger intelligence here. Um, yeah, I don't know. How does that land for you?
Oh my gosh, I want to slow clap. I just want to that I think that was so that was beautifully expressed. And as you were as you said, successful and impactful, also I felt like I wanted to add complete. Coaching
Complete.
becomes
Yes, great word.
more
Yeah.
complete. And then something else you said had me, I mean, especially as you're saying, it's not neck down, right? It's
Mhm.
up here down, it's in mind, it's including the narrative, it's including thoughts, it's including stories. And so that really had me thinking, feeling that
Mhm.
it's not either or,
Yeah,
it's both and.
right.
So I think that was a really beautiful response. I
Mm.
want to ask you about something really specific. On your Instagram, it says midwife to coach.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, and I know that about you because we had the pleasure of being in the same cohort, but you were a midwife.
Mm.
And I'm wondering about the parallels there between midwifery and coaching. If you could tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. So juicy. Yeah. Mm. When I was a midwife, I had ample opportunities to sit with families and, women when they were like in like a very intense experience, right? Not just in labor, but just the transformation of even being pregnant and navigating body changes and uncertainty and all of that too. Um, and so it taught me a lot about holding space, you know, um, because especially in labor, I can't. I can do things to help comfort someone. And I was really good at that, like I would know when to offer a cool cloth or to do back pressure or to hold someone's hand or just, but I could never take away someone's pain and it wasn't mine to take away, right? Um, because it was their journey. And so um I got really comfortable with being with intensity, as one can imagine. Um and just to see it as not something to fight or to try to push away or that something's gone wrong, but that the transformation was happening. And so to be able to hold space for that and to have a comfort with that, I think is really a skill that I really learned through being in those spaces. And I'm forever grateful for those families and humans that, invited me to be a part of that. Um, and so, yeah, so comfort with intensity, um, or even just a willingness to be with it, right? Maybe it wasn't always comfortable, but I could even sometimes, I feel like when I feel uncomfortable, maybe someone's talking about something really intense, and maybe it's something that I have personally experienced that maybe activates in something in me. So can I be with the discomfort in the space, mine and yours, right? And not make it wrong or not try to get away from it, but just hold space for it. So I don't want to say it's always comfortable, but I do have a very high level comfort with pain. Um, but even when it's uncomfortable for me, I can be with it, right? Um, there's a this is coming to me. I've also done a lot of work with focusing since the training because it has a interrelationship. Focusing has a lot of parallels with IFS, and I love them both. Sometimes I'll do more of a focusing kind of approach, working with parts, and sometimes I'll do more IFS. But in one of my recent trainings I did with focusing, one of the statements that teachers offered was, and I am the space big enough to hold all of this. And I am the space big enough to hold all of this. And I come back to that phrase regularly now. So you know, because when we're sitting with someone, a client, and whatever, and it might be their joy. It doesn't have to be the kind of uncomfortable, quote unquote, things that they're experiencing or describing, but just to be like, I am a space big enough to hold all of this, mine and yours, right? So powerful. Um, so yeah, so I think midwifery really laid the foundation for me to have that kind of capacity. Yeah.
I have the space big enough to hold all of this.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that encompassing, that's really here for me now. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
And yeah, capacity to be with pain and discomfort. And then something else you said in there really struck me, or sparked something in me. Just, the transformation is already happening. The
Hmm.
transformation is already happening. And so what
Yeah.
might I do here? I mean, and this is a metaphor in this moment for coaching, but I might offer a towel, or I might offer
Yeah.
encouragement, or I might
Yes.
offer perspective, or I might offer um, a glass of water,
Hmm. Yep.
whatever it is. Yeah. Oh, oh. And thinking of my doula in my birth, and the midwives that were around me, and
Mhm.
um, you know, I think that's such a what you shared there, just that ability to hold and be with mine, be with yours,
Mm.
attend to. It's just such a lovely metaphor and lived experience for you, beyond metaphor for you, but that's
Yeah.
for me and how I'm relating to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And my favorite coaching sessions where I've been the client was when I felt my coach's steady presence, when I felt their groundedness, their centeredness, their openness, their spaciousness to be with me and with whatever I was experiencing, and talking about. And so, uh, yeah, there's, I mean, we talk about in the training, somatic school training, the power of co-regulation. I think, again, there's something just fundamentally uh, so hugely important and impactful about, again, that energy that we bring and how our clients can feel that and we might not even say or do anything kind of that one might notice on the outside, but just how we're being in the space, our clients feel that, right? So um just on a foundational level, being attentive to, how regulated and resourced am I in myself, and how, can I stay connected to my sense of resource, so I can be this regulating, as much as I can and still be a human, regulating presence for this
Mm,
other person. Yeah.
mm, mm. Well said. Yeah, I feel really, and wrapping things up here, coming
Mhm.
to the end.
Mhm.
Um, I'd love to know if there's anything. So, assuming that whoever's listening might be considering becoming a coach, or might be considering expanding their coach training, or coming into um, a role like what we're
Mhm.
talking about, I'm wondering if you have any words, mantra, an idea, an encouragement for the listeners.
Mhm. Well, part of me wants to give a little plug in for the school, and just by saying that, I think whether you're a seasoned coach that has some training or experience under their belt, or you're brand new to coaching, I think there's something for everyone in the somatic school, genuinely, because I was a more experienced coach when I went through the training and I got so much out of it. But I could see how people, if it's, they're earlier on in their coaching or just beginning, how it would be so perfect too and so foundational. So I think it's kind of a win for everyone, no matter where you are on your journey. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, and mantra. Well, I love the Carl Rogers quote that says, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change."
Thank you, Annique. And then just last question here. What are you leaving here with?
I'm leaving with a sense of connection, feeling of connection, and satisfaction. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, leaving here with that same, or not same, leaving here with my own sense of connection and curiosity about interconnection and just this word ecosystem, this human being as ecosystem. So I'm really taking that with me. Thank you. For the listener, just a moment for you to recognize what you are leaving here with. Hope you take that moment. But this has been Radio Somanaut. Thank you, Annique Sampson, for being on this episode with me. This is Whitney Dawn Pyles, and we will see you next time.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me.
That's our show, folks. I hope you found something nourishing, enjoyable, or inspiring in today's episode. Thank you for being here, and see you next time. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at Radio Somanaut. You can also find out more about the Somatic School and our accredited diploma in body-oriented coaching at thesomaticschool.com, or follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. This is Whitney Dawn Pyles, encouraging you to stay present, stay curious, and stay connected.